What's the weirdest thing you've ever seen, Ross?
The weirdest thing I've ever seen would be St Elmo's fire leaping off an umbrella. How about you?
Yeah, I would assume that would be the same thing.
Yeah, that was pretty bizarre.
That was very strange.
Yeah,
Something I'll never forget.
That was odd.
This is probably a little bit more self-indulgent than most of my videos, but please bear with me because I'm hoping that this will be interesting anyway. A while ago, I was part of a thing that happened that kind of left a lasting impression on the opal mining community of Lightning Ridge in northern New South Wales, Australia, for reasons that will become very obvious pretty soon. From 2004 to 2009, Shaun Galman and I photographed lightning, storms, weather and landscapes around Lightning Ridge. We called our little project Ridge Lightning, and a few months ago I caught up with Shaun to talk about some of the things that we did.
The first lightning photo that I took was out of my toilet window, and it was the middle of the night and there was a storm coming, and I was just playing around with this to see what I could do, and it was a really impressive lightning bolt and a really crappy photo.
First actual lightning photo was a night we went out in early 2005, January 2005, to the local airport. I think I had only had the camera for a month. I think I was using bulb time at that stage, just holding my finger on the shutter and just hoping for the best with a couple of distant storms. Not many shots that night either. I think only one or two shots that were even usable.
One of the questions that we used to get asked is, when you're taking photographs of lightning, do you need to have really fast reflexes? And it's actually the complete opposite of that. You need to have a really slow camera. So the idea is not to take a photo when there's lightning, it's to open the shutter on the camera and hope that there is lightning while the shutter is open. So you might do a 4-second, 8-second, 30-second exposure depending on how bright the light is outside, and then you just hope that the lightning happens during that period of time, and if it does, yeah, you got a lightning photo, and if it didn't, then you got another black photo to add to the pile.
So some background on how all of this started and who we are. Shaun is a photographer, artist and musician, among other things, and I'm a photographer, graphic designer and filmmaker, among other things. So we've always had some kind of creative projects happening. The lightning photography thing started when some friends who used to live in Lightning Ridge basically suggested that we have a go at it. They had been taking lightning photographs for many years prior, but they were working on film. We had the benefit of digital cameras, which were just sort of becoming affordable at the time. And the best thing about digital cameras for experimental photography, like what we were doing, is that the photos don't really cost you money once you've bought the camera, whereas film photography costs somewhere like $1 or $2 per photo, and you have to wait to see what your results are. Digital photography is free and pretty much instantaneous, which is fantastic when you're taking crazy photos like we did.
The interest with storm chasing altogether just took off.
Yeah.
A lot of the documentaries in America and storm chasers on the Great Plains chasing tornadoes and tours, and I think it's just internet popularity and the ease of being able to do something that was quite interesting at the time. Slightly dangerous, but interesting.
Now at the time we didn't put anywhere near enough thought into our own safety as we really should have, and to be honest that was probably part of the fun, but looking back we probably made some pretty dumb decisions, but at least we got the photos that we were out to get. But just to be clear, we don't endorse or condone anyone going out into thunderstorms or severe weather for any reason. It's dangerous and you can get hurt. Be safe.
It did worry me a little bit when we were doing it, because it was about 5 years, I think, that we were fairly publicly known as being the guys that took photos of lightning. And towards the end of that 5 years, we started to pick up a few people who would go out and have a go on their own. And it worried me a little bit because I felt that we had some burden of responsibility for maybe suggesting people don't do this, because what we did was kind of stupid. You know, kind of like we should put "don't try this at home" on the bottom of everything that we did.
We had some sort of prior weather knowledge as well, which is very important. Things like knowing where the storms were in those days, even though we were almost prior to radar. We didn't really have a lot of radar.
The technology was not on our side.
No, we sort of had to visualise where the storms were coming from. We were just relying off what we saw, knowing where to set up. So the storm was oncoming, so we could actually frame a shot, which never really cooperated all that well with us due to the storm's speed and direction and wind changes, etc., etc.
Over the years that we were doing this, we ended up with quite a portfolio of photos. I had a list of some of our more popular pictures, and we had a bit of a chat about those.
I took that on a night that Shaun wasn't around.
I came down late. I must have been busy with something because I came down late to the party.
Yeah, I remember that.
And only salvaged one shot over the post office, I believe. That was all
That's
I got
right.
when you got Newtown touchdown.
I wasn't super excited about going anywhere, but I wanted to test a theory about getting photos in town. We'll sort of set up a scene and see if lighting will happen in it. I went down in front of the Opal Cave and basically sat in the gutter with this camera on a tiny little tripod, taking photos down the street. There's not really much to say about the photo, I just took it and it happened. Didn't really plan anything. Yeah, that was the thing that happened.
Well, Ryan Twin was my shot. I think it was my very first that I was proud of, I guess, in a way. That was a strange night. That was a real multi-cell setup, but they were very scattered out to the BS southeast, sort of east towards Collarenebri.
Yeah.
I think the second one was pretty close to Collarenebri, but the first one was active all afternoon, and we knew it was there at the time. I'm certain we were sort of debating whether to go out or not on dark.
Yeah, that was a big cauliflower-looking mashed potato cloud just sat on the horizon all day.
Yeah, right in the same spot, just a perfectly still storm that didn't move, and it was the perfect starting point for us to experiment with the camera. I remember it being the first night that I really played with the camera settings and got a chance to try things that I'd never been able to try before. But that was a strange night. A Ryan Twin.
Still a cool photo.
It was a good start. It was an alright start.
It was an encouraging start
for this technology.
Yeah.
Ooh, Club Strike.
That's all you.
That's a big jump from Ryan Twin.
That's almost beginning to almost the end.
Yeah, Club Strike. You were in Tasmania.
I wasn't here.
Yeah, I think you were in Tassie.
I may have been in Tasmania.
Yeah, I ended up chasing storms all afternoon from about 3 o'clock onwards, and I came back into town about 10 or 11 o'clock. It must have been about 10 o'clock, and it was torrential rain. I was absolutely soaked, standing in the street for an hour or two waiting for the storm to move. It was one of the most active storms I've seen in town for a very long time. I hadn't initially planned to be where I was. It was the only shelter I knew in town, and the storm built about 10:30ish. Lightning everywhere. It was super active. Definitely a night I'll never forget, but one I wish I had better camera technology at the time. I might have done things differently, but then I might not have had that shot, of course. That was a different sort of experience, that storm. It was very active. One I wish you were here for.
Yeah.
Things might have played out a bit differently at that stage.
That was a satisfying photo because I think it was the first photo that I got of lightning during the daytime. It was also the first photo that we got experimenting with neutral density filters in the afternoon as well. So that was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I stacked 3 neutral density filters. Neutral density filters are basically sunglasses for your camera. So you can darken the image the camera sees so you can get longer exposures so the camera thinks it's nighttime. And that was the first one that worked with, and that was kind of satisfying. So proof of concept, get the right settings and put some neutral density filters on and you can photograph lightning in the daytime.
Well, that was a good storm. That was a good afternoon, yeah.
It was.
Yeah, a lot of hail that day. Insanity was another still storm. It didn't move all day, and it was what they call an LP supercell, or a low precipitation supercell. And it stayed in the same spot all afternoon. It was the only storm in the entire area for the day. So I went out on the Cumbora Road, just on the plains, just off the highway out there, and it was a decent storm at the time as well. I remember that night being very windy, a lot of inflow winds that night. And it was a stationary storm until just after midnight. So I was still getting photos. I think I took my last photo that night at about 5 to midnight. I got quite a few shots that night. It was quite active. That was a good storm. Yeah. One I wish we got a lot more of.
Yeah.
Those ones that were stable for 4 or 6 hours at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
well,
that's another one that was just a matter of trying to tick a box. I always wanted to take really Lightning Ridge-y lightning photos because it's Lightning Ridge and it seems appropriate. And one of the things I wanted to do was incorporate some mining machinery into one of the photographs, and it was the only time I actually managed to do it. It was an old hoist, happened to be in the right spot at the right time, and there was some lightning behind it, and we achieved it.
We scouted sometime
We did.
That hoist too.
Yeah, it's actually really hard to find stuff that's in the right place. Like, when you're familiar with the area, there are certain directions you will get storms from, and there are certain directions you can get a good view from, and it's just a matter of the storm coming from the right direction to coincide with one of those viewpoints, and you get what you get.
A lot of cooperation needed
Yeah.
between us and the weather.
Yeah, you can't plan half of it because it's a matter of what happens.
One of the most common questions that we used to get from people who are interested in our photos is, are they fake? Which I always took as a weird mix of an insult and a compliment, like, the photos are so awesome that you assume they're fake. Well, thanks, I think. Well, they never were fake, and we discussed exactly what that means.
Yes?
Yep.
Yeah. All photos are photoshopped
They're
generally.
not fake.
No, they're not faked, but they are photoshopped to an extent.
You always have to touch things up. You always have to make some adjustments because these cameras are not designed for taking photos of lightning. These are designed for taking portraits and family photos and photos of nature and the things that people take photos of. So lightning photography is like a fringe science. You're really pushing the envelope of the level of dynamic range and the capability of the image sensor in the camera. The contrast is way off what the camera wants to do. So you need to Photoshop the pictures to pull them back down to reality, to what the experience actually looked like when you took the picture. The bottom line for us was not creating a picture that was artificially awesome, but making a picture that accurately depicted what we saw when we were there. And there's also a few pictures that I took where I photoshopped things out because no one wants to see a ratty old beer carton laying on the ground that I didn't realise was there because we were taking photos in the dark. And I think there was another one that we took on the side of the road once. There was an awesome photo of lightning, but there was a dead kangaroo on the road that I couldn't see because it was dark. So I'm sure we can all agree that that improved that picture pretty significantly.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier that our photographs had a lasting impact on the town of Lightning Ridge. Part of that was thanks to the response from the local media and the newspapers, and also the townspeople who helped us to establish, even though it was only brief, an art gallery to display our stuff for a while.
It wasn't long after we started taking photos that we ended up in the local newspaper, the Ridge News, which then spread through the little network that the newspaper is connected to the Daily Telegraph. And not long after that, we started selling a few photographs, framed prints. We did our first run of postcards because what we discovered is that it's pretty easy to market lightning photography in a place called Lightning Ridge. It was a product that sold itself, so it was pretty easy for us to whip out postcards and stuff like that and get things going. So it was we started taking photos in 2004, 2005, and in 2009 we opened an art gallery. We were not open for long in the grand scheme of things because some other family issues and whatnot arose for me, but that was a fun thing that happened.
Good experience.
Yeah. I was just talking to someone down the street today and they mentioned the fact that that shop was there, so it's clearly had a bit of a lasting impact on the town.
The newspaper headlines loved referring to us as storm chasers, a term that largely came about from the tornado chasers in the American Midwest, but that never really applied to us.
We never chased storms. We took 99% of our lightning photography was taken in Lightning Ridge or very close to Lightning Ridge. There was never much of a benefit to us to actually go and chase storms because by the time we knew there was a storm somewhere, we would never get to it in time to do anything useful with it. It was rarely worth it because the only storms that we get would be HP, LP cells, just maybe a supercell. By the time you get to it, it's going to have dissipated. There wasn't much point, and the landscape out here doesn't change for hundreds of kilometres, so there was never much in it.
No, it was more beneficial to stay on the ridges. We had a better view off the ridges. We could see storms that are 120, 130 kilometres away quite clearly. We generally let the storms chase us. It's the best way I could put it. Yeah.
So we've already talked about safety and how being out and about in thunderstorms is probably not the smartest thing to do at any time, but it's inevitable that if you photograph storms enough, you will eventually have a few close calls.
Several.
A lot. Yeah. I think you've had closer calls than me.
I don't know.
I think I've had one about the same distance, that sort of 100 metre, 200 metre distance.
Yeah.
And it's pretty eye-opening in the when you're stuck out in the open in the middle of nowhere. I think that's just the dangerous part of lightning photography, is the unexpected, the unknown.
Yeah, kind of.
It's always unknown.
Yeah.
It's always a little unknown. There's never 100% surety if you're going to be safe.
Exactly. Well, look, in theory, if you can hear thunder, you're in danger of being struck by lightning,
So if you've been hanging around since the very beginning of this video, you're probably wondering about that umbrella incident that we were talking about. I'm kind of hesitant to mention it because it's sort of like telling people that you've seen a UFO, but here we go anyway.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever seen, Ross?
The weirdest thing I've ever seen would be St Elmo's fire leaping off an umbrella. How about you?
Yeah, I would assume that would be the same thing.
Yeah, that was pretty bizarre.
That was very strange.
Yeah,
Something I'll never forget.
That was odd. That was, again, standing on a hill. It was a really dry night. There was a storm. It was a long way away. The storm was over there somewhere. About 100 kilometres away. I will emphatically insist that we were not in any danger of a lightning strike.
I think it was about 50 kilometres to the north.
It was a long way away. And we were standing on the hill, and it was windy. It was threatening to rain, but it wasn't raining. And it was dusty. And for some reason, we had an umbrella, and we could see that there were like 2-inch little blue miniature lightning bolts shooting off the ends of the stems of the umbrella, whatever you call those.
Yeah, the steel tips of the...
My umbrella
of the
anatomy is
structure.
failing me.
I think I heard them before we saw them.
Yeah, a little crackling, little
one inch blue-pink plasma bolts.
Sounded like a bug zapper.
Yeah.
That was
and
bizarre.
it was like a Jacob's ladder effect going down the steel spines, which was very strange.
My understanding is that it was basically just static from the amount of dust that was in the air. But that was weird.
Yeah, that was weird.
And on that note, that's the story of Ridge Lightning, more or less. We did a thing and it was cool, and while it's mostly over, it's kind of still around thanks to the internet that won't ever let things die. So if you want to find our stuff, you can find Shaun at Syndyne on DeviantArt.
Syndyne, Syndyne.
And Instagram.
Which is just Syndyne on Instagram.
Same name everywhere.
Same name everywhere.
Well done.
Yeah. Links down below.
Nice.
Yep.
And you can find me at Datazoid on DeviantArt and Instagram. There is also a Facebook page for Ridge Lightning where I'm posting on this day lightning photographs from our back catalogue and linking to other projects like this video that you're watching right now. It's not the busiest page on Facebook, but it might be worth hitting the like button if you enjoyed the stuff that we did back in the day. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to IDU Curiosity on YouTube.
Like and subscribe.
And you can also follow IDU Curiosity on all of those social media things as well if you want to. No pressure. I actually don't mind either way, but it'd be really cool if you would.
Do that. Go to those places. Do those things.
And thank you for watching.
What was our first question again? What did I say? I can't remember anything. It's something that you're really pushing the envelope of the level of... You're really pushing the envelope of the level of dynamic range.
I always lived in auto white balance.
Yeah, I always lived in I can fix it later.
Yeah.
Fix it in post? Outrageous.
Where is my Photoshop? Yeah. That's probably what I meant to say there. You want me to do that again?
No, it's alright.
Yeah.
Bleep it out.
Yeah,
Just pretend
you don't have to put that part in there. Definitely.
Yes, don't do that.
No.
Don't wear any shoes in a Don't go in a thunderstorm wearing any shoe. Don't go out in a thunderstorm.
Without shoes.
Or shoes.
Yeah, or in shoes. Yeah, no, those bolts are hundreds of kilometres long.
Yeah.
I don't think shoes are going to stop the lightning.
No. It's not going to go... Uh-oh, shoes! No. You'll die. On one hand, I've got...
No light. Line!
This whole thing's a bloopers reel.
Yeah, you're talking about...
when I wouldn't take a photo.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not.
When hell freezes over.
Yeah. Oh man, there's moments when I want to.
Want to swap?
Yeah, right. Maybe. I don't know. We could. I did consider for the 1 year anniversary when we started, which was... What was that? Back in 2015. I thought about maybe releasing a coffee table book or something, but... I don't know. You tell me. Like, is there
1 year anniversary?
Did I say 1 year? The 1 year anniversary. One year anniversary. One year anniversary.
You just said the 1 year
It's
anniversary.
the 10 year
It's the 10 year anniversary. I thought that's what I said.
It's
I'm
tired. It's the 14 year.
Tired, dude.
Is it now?
Yeah, but I'll start again. I'll say the right things this time.
Yeah.
Take 2.
Line.
Line.
Makeup.
Makeup.
Don't do what Donnie don't does.
Come back, see.
Right. I guess we talk about tripods.
Sure. They're important.
Let's try that again. My mind went blank. Line.
Tripods, eh?
So an example of a bad tripod.
Example of a bad tripod
Yeah.
would be something like this. This is the Pod 2000 Pro. This was a tripod that I found at a thrift store for approximately 50 cents. I've since repaired it with a pop rivet gun and some duct tape, and it works just fine, but I wouldn't be using it for lighting photography because it's not the sturdiest thing ever.
And as for tripods that you want to be looking at for storm photography, hang on, I'll do that again. Cut! Print! Line!
That's the photo I wanted. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I was waiting for that one. You got a spare one for that one?
yes.
Sweet. Is it handy?
It's in one of those bags on the floor there.
Okay.